Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Corey, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. So, this training is going to be called the Ultimate Attraction into Seduction Playbook. So, there's a video version that we're making on this. This is the first time we're going to be doing this training. It's going to be a long one. So, just going to spoiler alert. It's going to be a long one. It's one of those, one of my clients said, I do like the bite-sized information that you do, but I would want one really long one that I can just sit in and then listen to. Now, this one is going to be one of those episodes that you're going to listen to, and I would like you to listen to it over and over again because the more you listen to it, you're going to get more nuggets around some of the information I'll be teaching here. This is the Thriving Tribesman method. So there's some things that you'll be able to take away and revisit again in order to implement into your relationship. So when it comes to changing a sexless relationship, it's going to be like, how do I actually spark that desire without the risk of being shamed or suffering rejection? That's the thing that you're going to have to start considering. How do I do that? And really, it's really about you transforming your sex life from the ashes that it is right now, where it's sexless and it feels so much, it feels with so much negativity, and really getting into that place where you've got amazing and blazing passion, say passion, and I need you guys to make me a promise when it comes to this training, because a lot of you guys, I know, it's it's a flick and a switch. There's a switch in your mind that once you go through this training, you're going to become very, very powerful with some of the techniques we're going to be showing you. And most of you guys might decide to use this for evil. So instead of using it on your wife and getting a better relationship, you're going to use it to start pimping, because now you've got this power to attract so many ladies and this power to actually get them sexually aroused with just a few things that you're going to be changing. In fact, if as you take through this training, you're going to have, you know, unlimited sexual compliance. Basically, that's one of the things that you're going to be able to do. The other one is unrestricted flirtatious behavior that's going to be inducing from her. You're going to be tapping into her primal sexual desire, which is something that most of you guys have been hoping, like, how do I figure this out? How do I get her to be, ravenous when it comes to sex? And then also you getting it to chase you or to have sex with you. And this is one of the things that it's been a big thing that most of the guys that have gone to through our signature program, Reignited Men, that they've got their wives chasing after them to have sex with them. And really, you have to know that within Reignited Men, or within the Thriving Tribesmen community, I managed to help the 239 men within 2023. We managed to empower them within their relationships so that they can have the amazing relationships that they crave. Now, I've come from that same place. Initially, I was a pickup artist, had thousands and thousands of interactions within those that almost 10-year period, and a lot of them were sexual interactions as well. And I found myself in a place where I ended up getting married. When I got married, I, I shifted the way I behaved, because I thought that behavior is just for when I was a pickup artist. And I found myself in a sexless relationship. And I started thinking about, how do I use those principles when I used to use as a pickup artist in my relationship? And it took me a while to figure it out. It's been 10 years in the making, actually, what we're going to be teaching you right now. And there was a lot of trial and failures, and we managed to start getting some success. And therefore, we've now made it into a process that most people can follow, and it's going to be absolutely easy to follow. And in this training, we're going to call this the Ultimate Attraction into Seduction Playbook, which is really the treasure map. So it's going to move you from sexless to sexual success. So before we go and dive deeper, there's an old way of actually doing things. There's ways that most people are trying to change a sexless relationship. One of them is therapy. We are failing to communicate, because I think there's this uh, thing where people talk about, what is the number one thing, what is that number one thing in order to have a successful relationship? Everybody even somebody who's just come out of divorce court, you ask them, what is the number one success to a marriage? Most likely they'll say, don't get married. But the other bit, they'll turn around and say to you, communication. And everybody will always tell you is that communication is the number one key to a successful relationship. So therefore, because you've got that in your mind, you end up going to therapy. And you go to therapy because you think, okay, this person is going to help us to be better at communicating, but generally it doesn't. A lot of people that I've spoken to, I'm probably the last resort before they actually decide to divorce. They've gone through countless therapy sessions, sometimes countless therapists, and therefore, and again, you have to also know that it's counterintuitive for a therapist to try and get you a result as quick as possible, because one of the most difficult things in any business is to get customers, and for them to uh, only have 10 sessions is counterintuitive. So I mean, you're messing with the livelihood. So I'm going to have to stretch this out as long as I can in order to get you, so I'm going to string you along basically, and not fix your relationship as quick as possible. So it's very counterintuitive, and it's a very horrible way of trying to change a sexless relationship, because generally most therapists have got no sexual experience to actually understand that that's not how it's not going to be a conversational thing that's going to cause somebody to feel aroused. It's going to be way more than just conversation, or it's way more than just a communication breakdown, because you're consistently communicating within a relationship, whether you are saying words or not saying words. There's a lot of things that can be said about that, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper as we go along with this training. And the other bit is where you got some of my old colleagues that are pickup artists or are now coaches, where they are telling you that you need to be more alpha. It's an absolutely ridiculous idea, because when it comes to alpha, it's more about you being able to accentuate all those traits that are attractive to your partner. And not all women respond to alpha male. And I don't even know what the fuck it means. Um, Excuse my French. So it becomes to this section where most people, they think that they have to behave a certain way, they have to be boisterous and so on. And if that's not who you are, she will see right through that, or she will buy it for a little while, and you will get tired of that behavior before she actually fully believes in who that is. So you have to now figure out what are those traits that are in me that she will find desirable, and how do I continuously operate in that. And there's certain things that will teach you around that, especially is one cool thing that will be teaching us about reframing dominance in you, and then also how to convey that in a way that's going to be getting her to be inducing sexual feelings from her. And then there's the other bit where people talk about, you have to be having a six pack, for example. You have to train and look good, and therefore she's never going to be able to stop herself from having sex with you. Again, the, the- there's some truth to it, but it's not the be on end all. In fact, most of my clients within Reignited Men are very fit guys that are got better bodies, way better bodies than I have, but generally I have more sex than I've got a one pack, beer belly, and all the other things, but managed to have a very good sex life because of some of the things that we'll be employing over here. And then the other one is that go out there, make more money. And therefore, when you make more money, she's going to be way more attracted to you. And some of it, there is some truth to it. When it comes to coaching, I've seen quite a lot of things being branded around, and some truth to it, depending on the person. Some people, where if she's come from a place where she was real poverty, and then all of a sudden you've made more money, it does give you leverage of like, oh wow, I'm gonna have to try and keep this guy. And yeah, there is some things that can work according to this, but the other information that is out there is that, become more domesticated. So that means that, she's absolutely tired. She's stressed, she's depressed. So you do more around the house, and therefore it will reduce the stress, and then by doing so it should open up the floodgates of sex, which is absolutely terrible advice. That, and do more date nights. Again, date nights are absolutely horrible. Information out there about this, because if your house is not an environment which causes you both to be sexually attracted to each other, you can change the venue or the place, and that can work for a temporal, like on temporary basis. So you've gone to a date night, you've booked a weekend away, whatever that is, you will feel a level of excitement because of that change. What tends to happen is that when you come back into the house again, you regress to your normal habits and behaviors, which have already caused you to be in a sexless relationship. So you have to be changing the habits and behaviors in your house, create an environment of that mutual seduction, as we call it. And when you can do that at home, the date nights enhances what's already working. So again, a lot of all of this, you can sum it up as transactional, and now you having to do something in order to get sex. I mean, for example, the therapy and you changing, becoming an alpha male, you're doing all these things with this um, sort of mindset of that if I do this, then it should equal to sex, and it becomes a very transactional type way of looking at things. And within doing all of these things, you will get sex, but generally it becomes pity sex. It's not something that she, if you induce that desire, that ravenous feeling where she wants to be with you. Now, I know I'm recording this for the podcast, and I'm recording for the podcast using my slides for the actual video for this. So there's a link for the video for this, so you can see the training. And the reason why I'm talking about the video, that it can be good to see the video, is because I got slides and I've got some diagrams that actually gives a better picture of what I'm saying right now here. So now, one of the misconceptions when it comes to seduction is that, and I've got a diagram here where it's got a what looks like the arrows of a compass, and this top side of it, it says attractive behavior, and it has a dot that says high frequency sex. So, and it's the attractive behavior will cause you, will push you into seduction, and that's basically what it's trying to indicate. And that when you got attractive behavior and seduction, you'll get high frequency sex. When you take a logical solution and you're doing this in a transactional manner, it will take you to a sexless place. So, and like I said, it's going to be hard to explain it when it's on an audio, but it gives you an idea that really a lot of it is a logical problem. It's a behavioral problem that we're trying to use logical solutions. And when you do so, it's going to keep you sexless, especially if you're doing some of these things that are the old way of doing things. And the new way of doing things is actually seeing that what's going to influence the change within your relationship is going to be more centered around how you behave, and how do I accentuate all those attractive behaviors that I already have and that you will find extremely attractive, and how do I convey them in a way that she's going to really enjoy and be more collaborative with you. So it's a very, very important thing that you can do, and it's very cool that this is, you can actually change your sex relationship just by changing your behavior. Now, a lot of you guys, the reason why it hasn't happened for you this quickly is that somebody at my door, and I'm recording right now. I hope that you just leave me alone. But I'm just going to leave for a second, and I think they've left my package, so they should be okay. So, anyways, I'm sorry about that, guys. So, there's a reason why you ended up in this situation. A lot of you guys have taken this white knight syndrome, and this white knight syndrome is a replacement for a behavior that you learned back when you were with your caregivers. So, whenever your caregivers, whether it's your parents or somebody else, when it came to them validating you and saying, "I love you for who you are," they never had the opportunity to do so because they only reacted to you and made you feel seen and heard and validated when you did something amazing. So, for example, you behaved really well, then they'll be like, yes, wow, you're such a lovely kid. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, wow, so I have to behave this way in order to get seen and validated. Or you've worked really hard at school. Wow, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. And that's the only time you had any sort of positive interactions. And this set the tone that in order for you to feel any validation or any connection to anyone, you have to work for it. And within a relationship, or at least a sexual relationship, and for you to get sexual approval and validation, you now have taken this method where you think, okay, I have to be this white knight that is going to work my way to being validated by my partner. So you don't feel like you're enough within that relationship. So you feel like you have to do stuff in order to get this validation. And this is one of the things that sets you up for failure. And society has not helped with this, especially when you look at the cinemas and the films. You got this guy, the guy that gets the girl is the one that's doing all these things in order to impress her and do so, which is absolutely horrible because again, it sets the tone. If you look at one of the most influential sitcoms of this era, which is Friends, is a lot of this where you get this guy, she the the only time they took out sex is when she says, "If you do this for me, then I will give you sex." So then you get this guy now trying to do whatever it takes to end up having sex with this woman, which is a very terrible scenario, and it plays out all in all media. So it sets the guy now thinking that I need to be a specific type of person in order to get this sexual validation or earn validation or get sexual approval. And you take this white knight, so you take on every problem that she's got. You take on everything that that you try and save her from any problems, stress, and anxiety, and it sets you into a tailspin where you are trying to do everything in your power to get this validation in over a period of time because it's so transactional. It causes you to then fracture the relationship and end up in a sexless place. So when it comes to to changing a sexless relationship, hopefully you can see that it's more about changing behaviors. And we've now come to the meatier side of the training, where really the thriving tribesman method, the ultimate attraction into seduction playbook, comes down to three things that you need to do. And I mean, there's more that I can talk about. But I think these are the three major ones that when you understand this and you start implementing this in a relationship, you're most likely to be able to change your relationship. So now the first one is sexual comfort. And this is a very important one because when you understand that there's, instead of approaching it as though, which is many people do, that there's something wrong with her, and in the sense that she doesn't there's something wrong with her in terms of she doesn't invest or she doesn't feel a seduction or she's not responding to my seduction attempts in the old way stuff. If you only focus on the fact that there's the sexual comfort, and right now the reason why you're not having sex is because she's feeling uncomfortable around sex. When you focus on that, it's a good key indicator to start fixing the relationship because then it opens the door to the questions of why is the sexual comfort discomfort, and what are the things that are triggering the discomfort? How can I change the discomfort? What are the behaviors that I'm doing that are influencing the discomfort? So it changes the conversation and gets you to a point where you're actually dealing with the root of the problem instead of having to go and make money and be an alpha male, or telling you uh, once a week that you need to take that person for date nights and to do more around the house type thing, which is absolutely ridiculous because it doesn't actually address the discomfort that's happening within this relationship. So the other bit is sexual communication. So how do I communicate and convey certain behaviors, and how do I communicate? When I say communication, most people think about just the words, but really, when it comes to communication, there's a saying within the community. My community. Um, community of psychologists that the 97% of communication is non-verbal. So it's only 3% of what you say. But what you say is only 3% what makes up to what somebody can comprehend and understand. So how do I accentuate my behavior in a way that's going to convey sexuality and induce arousal from my partner? So again, we're going to tackle a little bit about that, and then also seduction. What does that mean? And so we're going to reframe that and get it to a point where you actually understand the actual process. And just as a spoiler alert, really, seduction is exactly what this playbook is pushing towards. Whereas most people, they they seduce in order to get attraction. So you have to flip it, you know, attraction first before you actually get into seduction. And this is why it's really important to understand this, because most people, like I said, I'll go dive in deeper with that one. Let me just thought hold that thought for now. So that was just me just sort of getting whet your appetite around some of that. So there's these three secrets that we can be diving into. And without further ado, we're going to go straight into it. Well, when it comes to sexual comfort, most people get into this negative association cycle, and really it's where uh, you're within a relationship. You've got this desire to connect with a partner. You want to have sex, and you go into this process where you're trying to initiate. And when you start trying to initiate, generally most people are met with rejection. And when they do, and this will be probably the thousandth rejection after 1,000 attempts of initiating, most people get into this point where every time they get rejection, they self-destruct. I feel depressed, I feel unwanted, I feel unloved, I feel all these negative feelings. And over a period of time, there's this buildup of resentment. And this buildup of resentment, it's always on the surface. But again, you still feel this desire and commitment to wanting to still connect with this person. It's almost this, I don't know if you know that game where these crocodiles keep coming out, and then you have to keep smashing them with the hammer. It's pretty much the same thing that, uh, even though being rejected, you still put yourself out there because you understand the value of wanting to connect sexually. So you keep doing this, and that resentment, uh, when you initiate and you already got resentment, that spoils you when you're actually initiating, and this becomes a vicious cycle because then the resentment fuels how you initiate, and you will be lacking conviction, you'll be lacking in terms of the behavior. None of it is going to induce arousal or get her want to have sex. So she now, normally she does not reject you specifically, just rejects your approach. And so you initiate again, then you get rejected again, then you self-destruct, then you got resentment, and then it's an, like I said, the if you're watching this on video, if you're watching this on video, you actually see there's a little cycle with this. And so it becomes very important to understand that in order to change the sexual comfort, offering up more sex is a bad idea. So this is where we call it the sexless reset. So you need to initiate a reset, and you can do this by actually not talking about sex, not initiating anymore, really just focusing on how do I keep this fun, you know, how do I change the relationship by making things a little bit more fun and really focusing more on that. And this is how this sexual comfort develops, because now you're showing her that, you know, besides sex, we can actually have fun, and this having of fun is important step to actually open the door for other things within your relationship. Because again, you already got a negative association towards sex. So offering up more sex is going to compound on the fact that she's uncomfortable. And when the the building of positive associations actually opens the door for you to then start for her to start feeling attraction towards you. And when she starts feeling attraction towards you, this is then what opens seduction as well. And really continuing on this negative association around sex does increase what we call seduction resistance. So, um, you know, whenever you now seduce, that resentment build up, as it builds up as your resentment builds up, it also builds up seduction resistance. So there is an important, like the moment you start building positive association, all that resentment, all that other things start fading away. And when that resentment subsides and goes down, his seduction, or at least a response towards seduction, goes up. So it's a very, very important thing that you need to understand, especially from the sense that you have to create the reset. And it's like, it's the big reset. You need to back off. I cannot stress it enough. Back off. Stop trying to attempt sex. Stop trying to initiate anything. Just back off. And don't talk about it. Don't make innuendos. Don't look at it in some sort of way. Just completely shut the fuck down. Like fucking shut it down. And when you do, what it will do is that it will give her some place to breathe, focus on having fun. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, what that looks like if we get the chance on this training. And so it becomes very important to this is how I approach. And when it comes to when to approaching this in terms of creating that seduction, or a place where she's more responsive, like I said, you stop continuing initiating, so you can gives you some yourself time to actually heal from that resentment. So you're just allowing that resentment to calm, and part of it is also just looking at her from the perspective, like, why is she feeling this discomfort? And this discomfort, if it's you that's causing that discomfort, what can I do to be changing that while we have the reset, so that when I do approach her, I'm not putting it back into that sexual discomfort. So that's that for now. Like I said, in order to go deeper, there's some certain things that I can go deeper with that one, but just for the sake for time, we're going to go straight to the next secret, which is sexual communication. Now, when it comes to sexual communication, there is one dominant thing that anchors everything else when it comes to sexual communication, which is really conveying dominance. And whenever I talk about dominance, most people feel some type of way about dominance because they feel like it's you overpowering over somebody. But really, dominance isn't that. It's more powerful than it is. In fact, the historic data around how the actual word came about was that somebody who is in charge of a piece of land and a piece of household, and that's what, and they used to call them dominus or domina, as in the person that owns piece of land, slaves, and so on. So it was more centered around that's what dominance is. Now it's just taken a different form in terms of people think of it as, that like bondage or something, or taking somebody with against their will or something like that. But really, it's more really understanding that there's a few concepts, there's a few things that actually make it attractive to a partner in terms of sexual attraction when you can convey dominance. And within Reignited Men, we teach this. And the first thing that you need to know about conveying dominance is really conveying the ability to protect. So you need to convey this. She needs to know that if somebody comes through that door and is trying to cause harm to that family, you have the capacity to cause, to defend. And there's a few things that I personally do. So, for example, I train Muay Thai, and I train how to fight, and I go and train in the gym. So I'm quite capable of defending my family, if obviously if it's a hand-to-hand combat type thing. But that also makes me walk in a certain way. It makes me be comfortable in certain situations and carry a sense of that I'm always safe, even though there's chaos that's around me. And that is a very attractive quality. So there's a few times when I've had interactions with somebody and in front of my wife, and me conveying that I'm not going to be spoken down or disrespected by another man. And again, I'm not saying to be violent, but I'm just saying situations where I can push back and really put somebody in their place and say, no, this is how I expect things to be done. So they should be done this way. That ability to convey, navigate those interactions